Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of tools that you should be using for Epic 7. We have made this video over a year ago and it's been quite a long time, so we'll make it updated so we have a 2026 guide of tools you should be using for Epic 7. Now for the most part, a lot of these tools remain the same, but as for a couple of them, they have gone and left us. So this will be stuff that works now, and you will see some familiar things from the last video and a couple of new things, but let's not waste any time and get right into it. So our first source is going to be Ceciliabot. This is going to be your main source for like a catalog for E7 heroes and artifacts, as well as any like timeline stuff of banners and summons that happened in the past. So when you head on to our official link screen, this just gives you official links to anything E7 related, which makes it a bit easier to find things. On the next tab, this is probably where you're going to be heading the most, but this allows you to search by any character in the game by its grade level, its class, element, as well as its star sign, which you can't do in game. And of course, there is a lot more filters than you can find in game. Now, beforehand in E7, you weren't allowed to search by like certain effects characters had, but eventually they did update it so you can see certain effects, but it's still not as good as Ceciliabot. For instance, let's say you want to gear a character on Warfare set. Something that is key to these characters is that they have to start the battle with a cooldown. Unfortunately, if you check on the E7 side, there is nothing that says that you start the battle with full cooldown. So you cannot search by this metric on E7. But if we come over to Ceciliabot, you can say cooldown and see you can find selection here for begins the battle with full cooldown, and you can see every single character that is able to utilize Warfare set in game. The same thing applies for additional damage, so you can see all the characters that have additional damage that can use Pursuit set, and I don't even know if this is actually an option for you to search by in game for Epic 7 as well. Now of course this has the more broader things that appear more often compared to things like additional damage and start the battle with full cooldown, but once again, it's still a very just better resource when you're not on the game in order to see heroes and artifacts and such. Now you can do the same thing for artifacts as well. I won't re-show it, but you can search by it as well. There's a hero stats table that concises all the stats in the game, so you can basically see who has the same base stats or what characters will end up with the same base stats. For instance, we can take a look at who has the fastest base speed in the game, and we know it's Kayron, Rand, Renok. We all know this. Or we can see who's the tankiest character in the game, which is between E10, Dragon Brysenia, and Emperor Ilinov. This helps you basically see where stats will end up, as well as shows you who has lower base stats than usual. Database. This used to be for you to see like skill multipliers and such, but it hasn't really been getting updated lately, so I can't really speak for this section anymore. Now we have a timeline, but instead we're going to jump over to Ultimate Timeline, which with Ultimate Timeline you can use this in order to search for past banners that we've had. And to make it a little bit easier for yourself, basically you hover over the left bar and then you're just going to press stats, and this basically shows you all the total releases and limited releases for the year, as well as when's the last appearance for them on banner. For instance, if we go to Coin Shop, we can see that Ceciliabot is the character that has been off banner for the longest, so that means she has the highest chance of entering Coin Shop very soon. It also has predictions for when the World Arena season is going to end. I wouldn't 100% say that's accurate, but it's going to be around that chance. Next we have Camping Simulator, which realistically doesn't work the same way as you would use it beforehand, but you can still use it to have maps in order for you to navigate through Labyrinth easier. Last but not least, we do have a Summon Simulator for all you gacha addicts, and we also have a tier list, which I use to make all of my videos in order for you just to have like an easy tier list maker. On to the next website. Now, one of my homies, Lendy, has made this site, which basically functions like Epic 7 RTA stats, but it basically gives you better information in one go as a whole, and just basically takes the information from Epic 7 match history and just presents it in the better for information. It tells you win rates of certain characters, it tells you what position they have that win rate at, it tells you the best partners, worst partners, what they're good against, what they're bad against. It also shows you, basically puts that into a graph formation so you can see how many games they're played and what their win rate is, and you can see low low play rate and what their win rate is. You can also see certain players that have win rates. And you can also see like the total what pre-bans have what win rates. You can see what characters have best synergies together. You can see what trios have best synergies together. And you can see what, based on what draft position, what their win rate is. And of course you can see win rates per server. Now, not only can you see this globally, but you can also look at certain players. So for instance, if you want to take a look at Meowmix, you can take a look at Meowmix and see all of this information concise down for this specific player, and it also has their match history at the very bottom, so you can pull up their matches and see all of these data all in one place. Now, not only can you analyze players, we can analyze specific heroes, for instance Salome, and see all this information condensed all for one hero. And you can see more information as for how many what the comparison is to like other characters that she's being played with, as well as you can see what she's most commonly being played with and their win rates by picking it. You can see what the character is losing into, and so on and so forth. Now, if you thought that was only it, this website has more. It also shows you basically data based on what warfare role is going on and what is being picked in this warfare role. So that means you know what is being won, what is having the easiest time of winning in this warfare role, and so on and so forth. Now, to be honest with you, that doesn't really matter because no one actually cares about that. Last but not least, we have a draft explorer here, which helps you search for specific drafts in order to help find things that will basically allows you to help tackle a draft that you saw. So for instance, maybe you play Skills DN pre-ban and your opponent plays Biblis Nodos pre-ban. You can go ahead and start to recreate the draft that you played in order to find something that was similar that you played against and what you can choose again in the future in order to win against that draft. So that's pretty much all this site has to offer. On to the next site. Now, next up is going to be Fribbels. Now, if you have the old fork of Fribbels, that one no longer works. Unfortunately, the original creator of Fribbels does not actively work on it anymore, and we have someone new who actually makes the new fork for Fribbels. Now, of course, it still works the same, but if you have the old one, I'll have the site in the description, and you're going to download this one instead, and this will basically be the quote-unquote offline version. And it'll basically be how Fribbels should be, but it's just going to be updated compared to before. Now, if you don't know what Fribbels is completely, basically this is a gear optimizer for your entire account. Now, of course, this does require a computer to do so, and you will need to have an emulator or the PC client. It doesn't matter which one you have, but you need to be able to play Epic 7 on your desktop computer or laptop, whichever it is. But basically, you use this in order to just help re-gear your account. Now, I don't think this is I was helping someone else, I believe. So I don't know if this is actually my stats, but for instance, let's take Solitaria, right? You can use this to help like gear the character with specific stats. So it's a lot more specific than what you would get in game. It also helps you sort by gear, so like once you gear a character, you can exclude those gear pieces completely, so that way you could go ahead and just not select those pieces while you're gearing. So you can do something like this. Let's say we want HP neck, effectiveness ring, and speed boot, and we'll just make sure that we're on speed set like this, and then let's choose something like immunity or headset, and then let's target something like 240 speed, 15k HP, 1500 defense, and around 150 effectiveness. And then once you lower this permutation to about 25% or 32%, I always go for, you press start. It's going to ask for bonus stats because I said I would do that. You just go ahead and sort by stats that you want. And what it's going to do is that it's going to now start pyramid trading. Minimum defense? Oh, whoops. See? So now what it's going to do is it's going to start pyramid trading all of the possible builds that you can build on this character in order for you to have a pretty good time. And then it will just give you all these stats laid out, so that way you can start to sort through and figure out what you want to put on this character. You can also then sort by sort by speed to see which fast you can do. Maybe you want to have more F, you can sort by F. It does a lot for you. It just helps you manage your gear better and basically helps you handle a large bulk of characters. Now, I can tell you from experience that really Fribbels is only for the people who have a large amount of gear or a large amount of heroes, because if you don't have a large roster, then this is really not so useful to you because you can probably do it manually. But if you do have a bit more gear on your account or just want an easier time gearing your characters, this is the place for you to go. Alright, next up, there's this E7 damage calc. This is the same site as before, but it should be under the 2.0 number, and basically just simply allows you to just calc your damage into things before you go play into it. So for instance, we can go ahead and take one of our newest characters. Let's take Estelle. So you just go ahead and search up Estelle. It usually takes a minute for this to update, so if it doesn't drop on the update day, just be wary of that. And we'll basically just copy our stats 1-to-1 into this. And I'll just do rough estimates just so I can make this a little bit quicker instead of copying all the stats 1-to-1. So I have roughly 30k HP, and then you can see how much damage you are actually doing on your character. Now be sure to of course equip anything that is applicable to your characters so you can have the most accurate stat lineup. So into a low defense character, I'm doing a roughly 11k on S3, but if we fight a little bit more on average, let's say 1400 defense, we're doing only 9k. But what if Suyul has superhuman dust? Well, now we're actually doing 17k on S3. So it helps you actually calc everything that you were to be doing, like if you were to get collapse, if you were to get superhuman, if you have death break on your target, if you have pen set, it calcs everything for you. It tells you the barrier amounts, everything that you can ever hope to see before you enter a game, so you're informed of how much you get. It shows you here. Like for instance, we can use superhuman and see that if a cell pox and barrier, we get 13k HP barrier for our damage dealers, which is quite insane. So this pretty much helps you just calculate damage before you enter a match, so you don't need to just go damage test everything with somebody or go queue an Artane match just to see what damage numbers you get. So also in this section, we have like a speed tuner, which basically shows you what speed you need to be in order to like tune your units perfectly. Like for instance, let's say your opener is 300 speed and then your DPS is 200 speed, and then you apply whatever CR push value you get, and it tells you how much speed you can afford to run on your slower unit in order to push your target. And you can also see at this if that unit has a self push, for instance, like Saria. There's also a speed solver here for you to help speed calc into someone else, like for instance seeing how fast your opponent is when you pick an X unit. So you use your CR bar in order to calculate this to see how far in distance that person is to you. There's also an effective HP calculator here, which you utilize to see if you're tankier or not, or what is a more tankier build. Generally I can do this in my head, but for anyone who's newer, this is basically something very useful to you to make your characters feel tankier. And last but not least, we have an effect chance calculator here. You really don't need to use this. It's pretty much something that you'll pretty much come to understand really quickly. But for you, once again, for anyone who is newer, basically this can help you understand how much effectiveness you need in order to land. Last but not least, we have another RTA site called RTA Stats. This one also helps give more like accurate RTA stats. Not only go to the site just to see win rate numbers and that's it. So like for instance, I go to heroes and then now we can see who has the highest win rate in the game, who has a lower win rate in the game. And we can see Boss Ranker has a 47% win rate right now for some reason, which is crazy. But I literally only go to the site for win rates because I feel like Slendy.gg, the one that we visited early, kind of does it a little bit better. It's a little bit more tailor-made and it's a little bit more informative, but they do give roughly around the same amount of information. I just prefer Slendy's layout a little bit more. So you can pick whichever one you like to, like wherever you prefer to use, you can pick any one of those two and just play around with it. But this is another site that you could use if you want to check out win rates between artifacts, heroes. This has sets, meta, It has drafts, which you have to log in for, which I won't log in for, but realistically I only use this to see win rate. If you want to play around with this to see what else this site has to offer, you can go ahead and do so. Anyways, that is pretty much all the tools I have for you today. If you enjoyed, please be sure to subscribe. I'm pretty sure we were really close to 1,000 subscribers soon, so I'd really appreciate if you pressed the subscribe button. And I will see you guys in the next one.